Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews, and we're back with the second half of the new season of BoJack Horseman Season 5. We're doing episodes 7 through 12, and so if you've seen my other one, you know how I feel about this. This is such a great season. Just keeps getting darker, but like at the same time, it's just so freaking fascinating. I was thinking about this at work today, when I was thinking about the storylines and how much I give a shit about what happens to these characters, and they're just cartoons. Now I know that like you can say, oh, it's all just fictional and blah blah blah, you know, like every TV show, and you know you can care, but you got to know it's fictionalized. But you know, cartoons are different in a way to me. Like they're just, you know, like you have some stuff like Star Wars Rebels, things that have this ongoing storyline where you go, yeah, I hope things work out. But I mean, in this story, it really feels like you're not just really watching a cartoon. You know, you're invested. There's an investment in this that with the writing and the arcs that these characters have gone on in 5 seasons, that you really, I mean, I really at least give a shit. And I was just thinking, I was kind of blown away today thinking about one of the storylines in this. I was just like, man, you know, I really do hope. So I was thinking about how I compared BoJack to Hank Moody on Californication, and how, you know, yeah, you know, I was kind of wrong about that, because at the end of Californication there is kind of like a window where it looks like Hank might have changed or something, or at least there's the possibility of change, but it's still open-ended. And I really do hope, though, that somewhere in down the line we do get this, like BoJack does get like to become something different, something a little bit better. But what I also like is in the show when BoJack's talking about how there can't ever be like happy endings, that there's always more show. And that's a really great like way of putting it, that they can't ever really be happy. So I don't know how much to really expect as we go forward. But the last 6 episodes here do get pretty damn dark, and it was already dark. And they really do keep hitting the whole Me Too sexual harassment thing pretty hard. In a way, maybe a little too hard. But I guess, you know, it's just kind of like they even say the time's up thing. Like it's a tricky subject to talk about without pissing somebody off. And I try to be where, you know, like I don't want to upset anybody, where I feel like and by upset I mean not being like angry enough about the situation, and, you know, making my videos, you know, like have that real impact of that's right, let's get all these men and all this stuff. And I just don't, I'm trying to write a line when I do it, where I just don't want to, like, it's not like I'm not trying to tell my true thoughts on the subject, because I do believe that the whole sexual harassment thing and Me Too, like the heart of Me Too and all this stuff should, you know, all this stuff needs to stop in Hollywood. But some of the stuff in here, man, like it got really like to the point where I wasn't sure how much they were like being serious at times, and like I don't know. It's just I gotta start talking about the episodes, because I feel like I'm digging myself a pretty big hole here without being able to explain myself properly. And it's also been a really long day. So let's start with episode 7, Interior Sub. And another thing about these next episodes is like there's some really great ways of animated storytelling going on. So like in this episode we have these 2 women. One's a therapist and one's like a kind of like a lawyer who does like arbitration, but it's like tries to settle differences between people before they go, you know, to court and other things. And it just so happens that like the therapist is with Diane and BoJack trying to tell that story, and the other lady is telling a story about Todd and Princess Carolyn. What I love is like just the way they tell this story, where they're trying to hide the different characters and how far they go with it, where she calls him Bobo the something zebra, and they go through the titles, and I said, I wonder if, and they did, he's a zebra. The title is Bobo the something zebra. I can't remember what it was called. And now everybody's different. Everybody looks different. Like Princess Carolyn at times looks like these like balls of yarn and scissors, and Todd's like a face finger man. It's just, I love the way that they tell this story of them trying to talk about their day without revealing who they're talking about. The whole thing with Todd and Princess Carolyn and string cheese is just kind of funny. There's just like, you know, and I love that they talk about like, oh, your memories and this part of the, you know, like our conversation is kind of like a B story. I love that. They you know, they're not really, they're kind of breaking the fourth wall, but but not quite. They're just bringing up the tropes that are in sitcoms and shows. The stuff with the therapist, though, like again, BoJack kind of pushing himself into something else. Like Diane wants this for herself and he can't give that to her because it's all still just about him. And then how she turns it around on him, and I love it at the end where she changes the writing because of the whole thing about, you know, put it in there, make it sound like it's your idea, blah, blah, blah. And so it gets put in, and she has a way of bringing up that story, or not the story, but the situation that happened with BoJack down in New Mexico with Charlotte and her daughter, and putting that into the script, forcing him to read it, you know, on the cue cards, forcing him to like say the words out loud, and in this like reenactment on that show that they're doing. It was really cool how they did that, and the look on his face. And that's the thing, like it's just a cartoon, but you get this realization the way they tell the story, and the realization that he's reciting the words that were on the tape that he made. It's like, this is like beyond good writing, beyond good telling us. I don't know, it's just an incredible episode. Episode number 8, Mr. Peanut Butter's Booze. This is another one. I mean, it's told in different time periods, like in the early 90s, the like early 2000s, and then like 2009, and then present. All dealing with different stages of Mr. Peanut Butter's old relationships and different wives, and all set at Halloween. So in the 90s, you've got like Wayne's World and all this stuff. And in the 2000s, you've got like Jessica Biel and him, and all having to do with like the failures of Mr. Peanut Butter's relationships and what the common denominator is. And I love how Diane, you know, finally, you know, tells him like, you're dating 20-year-olds, you're dating young girls who eventually outgrow you because you stay the same and they grow up, and you want them to kind of be this one thing, and then it's not them like change, you know, they're changing and you're not. And it's a really cool thing because I like Paul F. Tompkins a lot. And I think that as Mr. Peanut Butter, he gets some of the best lines on the show. But Mr. Peanut Butter, for me, has always just been kind of annoying. And I think that's kind of the point. Like BoJack's just always kind of like, ugh. But I know a lot of people really like Mr. Peanut Butter. And like I said, I love Paul F. Tompkins as this character. But it's a statement to just the writing and the voice acting that he annoys me. Because of his ambivalence to things going on around him. How he doesn't see, you know, how he constantly abandons his wives, each wife at these parties to go off and be something to somebody else. He's always trying to be, you know, the life of the party and just like the bright, you know, like it's like part attention getting, and like kind of also like he feels the need to like, not just for himself, but he thinks he has to be everything to everyone, like, and just, but he can't be there and give the attention to the women in his life and the importance. He never puts that like on there. He's always like doing something else. So I really like the way that this story is told. Again, there's so many jokes. I hate like doing spoilers with the jokes, so I like to just describe its story elements. But this episode is so funny. The whole thing about Jessica Biel. Oh my God. And like the mummy, like why she's afraid of mummies. Oh my gosh. And it has to do with like how she tried out for a part in the Brendan Fraser Mummy series. That joke's great. The whole thing with Princess Caroline and always being at the door. Everybody just, and it continues to like give each character more growth throughout each episode, no matter what the story is about. You get to get more about each person in this show, even in an episode that's supposed to be mostly about how Mr. Peanut Butter is trying to change how he treats, the women in his life. Episode, let's see, now we're at 8. Episode 9, Ancient History. So Hollyhock comes to town, and this is where we get where the pills are taking their toll on BoJack. But the pills situation with her, like how last year she was drugged, and now that's like her trigger. So she ends up, seeing the pills, having a freak out, and throwing them away, and then spending the entire time that she's there to visit BoJack just hunting down drugs. And I love that he says, like, we have to constantly like saying things like, I don't blame you, but you should feel bad, kind of like this reversed, like this passive aggressive way of talking to her. The whole thing where he's like, nobody needs, like he has to find these pills, and then says, nobody needs pills. And that look on her face, and just how it just keeps devolving into worse and worse situations as he has to, I want my pills, I don't need them. But then at the end, like how it's consuming him. And it just gets worse from there. The whole thing with, oh God, okay, so we get Henry Fondle, the giant sex robot, which is just fucking ridiculous. But it also shows like it's saying something about the whole industry and how this dumb like Todd shouldn't be the head of an executive at this company, but somehow this robot becomes like the fucking CEO, and just saying all these terrible sexual things with the dildos and the ass plugs and everything, and just, oh my gosh, it is such a great freaking gag that just keeps like kind of throwing the whole sexual harassment thing around, like, and people not getting it, but like, oh, they get it, but they're not taking it like that way. It is just amazingly satirical. Like, I can't believe that they went there. This is one of those moments, in the show where you just go, holy shit, they're going for it. And it just, I never got over, like, throughout this whole time, every time they'd show Henry Fondle, up until the bitter end, I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. So then episode 10, Head in the Clouds. So this is where, they're at this thing for Filbert, which, again, this show is just awful, but it's like I kind of love watching them make it. And Rami Malek's Flip, he's such a great character as this just like douchebag, pretentious, series creator. But in this, the big moment in this is where Diane confronts BoJack, and it just keeps going. And this is where, again, I feel like, BoJack just kind of is always we're going in circles with him a little bit. Just, he's always, I'm a good guy, I can change, and all this stuff. And his relationship with her is kind of always the same, where she just kind of keeps coming back to help him when he really almost doesn't deserve it. But it's also like, it has to do with like his relationship with Gina, which I like that it took me a while to realize it was the girl from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I forget her name, so I apologize, but the one who plays Gina on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. This one I'm just kind of like, it has to do with the popsicle guys, the two guys that one tells a joke and the other like one's the setup and one's the punchline. I thought that part of the show was kind of just like, ugh, these vaudevillian type of characters, they just kind of annoy me. But just the fact, let's just get to episode 11, the showstopper. And this is where everything just starts to blur. Like all the pills that he's been taking and everything is just, his show and his real life are just blurred together. Again, the way that they animate it and the way they tell the story is really incredible, because you just don't know what's real the way they tell it. Like BoJack doesn't know what's real. He thinks he's filming a scene. Sometimes you think you're watching the show. I also love the credits, where the beginning credits are just like previously on Filbert, and they do the whole like Leonard Cohen type song over these credits of the show. It's great. So it kind of gets you immersed that you're going to watch the show, and then it keeps jumping from reality to the show, to the filming of the show, to like where we really don't know how much is actually going on. So that sometimes when they cut, you're going, oh my God, is he really doing that? Or, is it just like an exaggeration of something he filmed and this is like all in his head? The thing with the stairs is weird. And they never quite explain it, because he goes up there and there's the balloon horse. Somebody out there that's way smarter than me can tell me, who wants to do a deep psychological dive into that. But the whole fact that he ends up like snapping like when she finds his pills, because God, he's like House here. He's just like Greg House. He's got pills like everywhere in his cactuses and his bananas. And so when she finds the pills and confronts him about it, and then it starts to just turn until all of a sudden we're at the scene where he's choking her out, and he's really choking her out. Like he doesn't know that he's filming anymore, and his rage towards her is breaking into like he's really killing her, and it's really dark and really crazy. And so that ends up running into like, because Filbert was a huge success for the What Time Is It Now website. I still love that. That they're streaming on a site called What Time Is It Right Now. So they're filming season 2 and this all happens. And she's, Gina's becoming famous and all this stuff. And then we get to like the last episode, the Stop Show, which deals with the aftermath of that. And he just doesn't even know what he did. He's completely blacked out. And it's one of the only annoying parts about this is that he should just still be, how does he go from completely delusional and not knowing reality to just kind of being normal again, even though he's still taking the same amount of pills? That he should still be having a freak out instead of just this blackout where he wakes up and somebody has to show him, Princess Carolyn has to show him in Stingray Leota's trailer what actually happened. And in this, you get BoJack trying to take responsibility, and Gina, see, this is where it got a little complicated for me, is that Gina doesn't want him to say anything. He doesn't want him to come clean and say what he did to her, because it would ruin her career, and that she'd always be the girl who BoJack Horseman choked out, and it would never be about her acting abilities. And that was that's where I got a little conflicted in my head, because what are they trying to say here about somebody who's trying to own up to what they've done wrong? What does that say about the system if the girl doesn't want to press the issue for the sake of her career? And that made it very hard for me to go, okay, what are they trying to say here? How am I supposed to feel about this? Because is she being brave? But, and it's true. She would be the person, they would start seeing her as just the chick that BoJack choked. But because she wants a career in acting, because she wants to be famous, that she's willing to not do anything about it. And I guess maybe, I don't know if they're talking about the opposite side of all this, that the fear that these women have that have been assaulted have to open up about it for fear of what it would cost them. And I don't know how I'm completely supposed to feel about that, because I think not saying anything on both sides is bad. But anyway, he does try to take responsibility, but nobody really wants him to. Even Diane tells him, you know, you can try to do all this. I'm not going to write this story about you because, you know, you're not bad, you're not good, you're just a person who does bad things sometimes, and sometimes you do good things. Which leads him to going to rehab, which is kind of like, yeah, I wish that they had just kind of done that earlier in the season, instead of making this all about, again, like kind of a, how many times do we always end up here at the end of BoJack Horseman seasons where he's at these crossroads, and then we have to wait a year to find out that nothing really has changed, and he's kind of doing the same old thing where he might change for half a second, but then he just finds something else to like fall down the abyss, and then by the end he has to like pull himself out again. And that might be the point of this whole show, is that this is just kind of on a loop, like what he says early in the season, that there's never really a happy ending, that there's always more show. So, I don't know. But it was still a really powerful season. It was so well done, so well executed. It took animation storytelling to whole new levels that I respect so much. That if you haven't watched this, and I'm sorry for spoiling it, you know, like, but yeah, this is like up there. This definitely deserves to be up there for best animated series of the year. This should be nominated for Emmys, for writing, for the show in general, for episodes. I don't know if they do voice acting awards, but they really should, because a lot of people that do really good jobs on this show that blow me away, they take the silly, and the absurd and the absolute, I mean, craziness of like these Richard Scarry looking drawings, you know, where half man, half animal people living with humans world is this most absurd, ridiculous thing, and somehow makes it so human and so relevant and so just well executed that it's beyond, like, I love Rick and Morty, and I've, like, you know, and shows like Futurama and old The Simpsons and South Park and all this stuff, but this is just doing something so different that it really needs to be recognized, if not, you know, before, because it has, I think, been nominated before, maybe, but it needs to be recognized at this point, and not because it's talking about the current climate of what's going on in the world, but just because it's standing on its own. This is a fucking amazing show. So anyway, that's it for season 5. I hope you enjoyed watching this video series with me, the 2 reviews that I made. So anyway, yeah, check this out. I plan on watching this again at more my pace instead of binging like I did to get the reviews out. So anyway, if you like this video, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of this season. Hit the bell for all notifications on my videos. And that's about it. I am going to be making a video for Atypical Season 2, probably tonight as well. And then that's about it. So this is Robert Smirking Gun Review saying have a great night, and we'll see you later. Bye.